I'm Bethany Heck, and you're listening to the Master of One podcast. You can find my work at heckhouse.com.
Welcome to this Sandbox episode of the Master of One podcast, part 2 for this week. This week we talk to designer and illustrator Scott Fuller. I'm Andrew, your Master of Art and Design.
I'm Patrick, your Master of Television and Film.
And I'm Luke, your Master of Toys and Games.
So splurge on your favorite beard oil, because it's time to get groomed.
Hey, this is a family-friendly show.
So for this Sandbox episode, we are excited to be joined by one of our friends who has been a longtime listener and longtime Slack contributor. He's an incredibly talented guy. We got to hit him up when we were at Creative South this year. Patrick gets to hang out with him and lose to him regularly in table tennis. We're talking to designer, illustrator, and self-proclaimed Southern modernist, owner of Studio Temporary, Scott Fuller. Everybody welcome Scott to the show.
All right.
So Scott, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going, fellas? It's been a few months, Patrick. It's been a few weeks, but
The wound is still fresh, though.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry.
See, it was deceiving.
They say the 12th cut is the deepest.
You had a couple early shots that were a little wiry that they got away from you. But then you honed in, and then it was just destruction and devastation.
Well, I wanted to see. I wanted to try a couple of things, and then just kind of back to the basics, and there you go.
All right. Well, Scott, for everybody who's unaware of who you are, give us a quick Wikipedia page about yourself and the work that you do.
I'm a graphic designer and illustrator, sometimes typeface designer. I run the Studio Temporary, which is a studio that is comprised solely of myself. And I work out of the Switchyards Downtown Club in Atlanta, Georgia. And I do identity work, branding, illustration, packaging products, all kind of fun stuff. No web whatsoever. I stick with kind of the physical realm, which is really, really cool.
So you're off-grid.
I'm off the grid, so which is kind of cool. But my grid's really well designed. But yeah, and then I live outside of Atlanta, out in OTP, or outside the perimeter, for those of you who are not in the know. And just kind of on a nice, quiet street. Where every now and then a deer will get hit by a car and die right in your driveway, which actually happened this last week, which is kind of cool. My little boy looked out the window and said, "Daddy, there's a kangaroo that's hurt in the driveway. We need to go help it."
Wow. Son, lay off the drugs.
I just got up in the morning. I just got up that morning, and I was like, "What are you talking about, man?" He's like, "Daddy, there's a king." Okay, so I go outside, and sure enough, big old dead doe right in the front of our driveway.
Oh, man.
I thought you were going to say big old dead kangaroo.
From that angle, from his view of the world, and I had just gotten up, so the eyes and everything. Mm-hmm. So, but
I have a confession. I didn't even realize that you had kids.
Yeah. Okay. So I have. It's my lovely wife, Julie. We'll be married 9 years this year, which will be cool.
Nice.
And then I have a 5-year-old named Sean.
Very cool.
And he will be turning 6 this September. Of course, he's a Fuller. He's going to have a September birthday. Just about all of our birthdays are in September. And then and then we have a little kitten named Ella. So, like a second kid almost.
Nice.
So, when you talk about, when you say that you're a designer and that's a sometimes type artist or type designer, what does that mean? Like, are you creating actual typefaces, or are you doing like custom, like hand type
Well, I mean, just about anything that I put out is going to be custom. Even y'all mentioned that that design I did for the Zoo Gallery before we jumped on here. There's a lot of things that are consistent with that with the original typeface or whatnot. But I've made a lot of changes to it as well. As far as the type design, I think I'm up to 7 typefaces now that I've designed. Some for Retro Supply, one for me, and then I'm actually working on one right now. What is it? This is Ella. Say hi. I'm actually working on one right now for the city of Atlanta.
Cool.
So it's not something that I do a ton of, or necessarily get hired to do as much just yet. But it's something that I really enjoy. There's a meticulous. I don't know. It's like there's a really meticulous nature to that I really enjoy. My dad was a machinist, and I did trig, physics, and calculus and stuff in high school, doing all that type of stuff. So to me, it's, you can sit and work for 5 or 6 hours on it and not even realize all that time had gone past. And I loved all the little intricacies and whatnot of doing that.
So, okay. So you as a person, you are a force, right? So like if you're listening right now and you don't know Scott,
if you don't know Scott, then you don't know squat.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Go ahead and trademark that right now. So the first time I met you, we were at Creative South. This was 2 years ago. And I remember we were doing the VIP dinner or whatever it was, like the day before. And everybody's in a good mood. But when Scott walks up, suddenly like everybody's attention turned. Like, and I remember you coming through the gate and like there's Mike Jones like wrapping his arms around you. And it's like everybody shifted to like, the party's here, or like Scott's here he is. So it tends to be like you seem to be a connector to me. You seem to be a guy that kind of knows everybody. So talk to me about that. Like what does that look like for you? Are you just naturally an extrovert, or is that something that you go out of your way to do to make sure that like you're engaging with the people that are around you?
Well, both, really. I mean, I've always said I got the gift of gab from my mom and my timing from my dad. So, but yeah, no, I'm very much an extrovert. I mean, I love talking to people. I have walked up to folks and just said, hey, and, next thing you know, we've talked for 45 minutes and I have a meeting with their design department or something, in 2 weeks. I mean, stuff like that's happened to me. But I guess my biggest thing is I'm always open for that. I'm always kind of available for that, I guess would be the right words. I love talking to people, though. I mean, whether it's a guy on the street to, just walking past and saying hey to somebody to, I'll go back and forth with the guy at the sandwich shop that I go to. Man, I walk in there and sure enough, they start making fun of this and making fun of that, and I just give it right back to them, But, they're great folks and everything, and I enjoy that rapport, I like the little inside joke thing and whatnot. But as far as, getting to know somebody or just knowing a lot of people, when I got started, I graduated back in 2008, and I sucked. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I sucked. And but you don't know it, right? I mean, you're just, it's never was like, oh, my stuff is this or that or whatnot. But you have the self-belief that you have to put out there. Even sometimes, you walk into a place and you realize, wow, these guys are on this level and I'm, here.
Sure.
But at the same time, you realize, what? They might hire me sometimes before they hire the work, So if I can relate to people, if I can, get to know them, if I can actually have a legitimate conversation with somebody and look them in the eye, I think that's a big thing, man. There's so many folks that have no clue just how to have a regular conversation with people. They got to be on a Skype, they got to have a text message, or it's even a phone call. I mean, there's an art to some of this stuff.
Sure.
But it's weird. I couldn't get a job my first 2.5 years out of college, but I knew some of the most powerful people in the design industry in Atlanta. And I would hook people up. I'm like, here I am, I'm 23 years old, don't have a job, can't get an interview, no website, I mean, nothing. But, oh, you need this? Oh, you should go talk to this person, And I enjoyed that, And I've kind of kept that up, nowadays. And if you do good work for me, if I hire you to, to print my t-shirt or to, do my poster or do that type of stuff, if somebody does a good job for me, I will let people know.
That's what I was going to say, that I have really come to know about you. I don't have as much interaction with you as say Patrick does. But that's one thing that I would say to be true about you. If someone were to be like, if someone were to call me and ask me to be a reference, I would say that you are an advocate. You are a person who you want Scott Fuller on your side because you'll shout it from the rooftops. You will be the biggest champion. And you're just so darn likable that people perk up and listen. Like Patrick said, when you walk in the room, everyone to kind of shifts their attention if they know you, because
it's the beard.
That's your personality draws people to you, and so I totally echo that.
And I enjoy that. I mean, there's people come from all these walks of life. I mean, like I said, I started out. I was going to be a mechanical engineer. How did I get from that to this? I mean, seriously, because I don't remember any of it. How did I get here? But I don't know. Everybody's got their own opinion. Everybody has their own, world kind of viewpoint. Everybody's got their own, idea of how this should go or how that should go, and I just enjoy that. I enjoy getting all those different viewpoints and trying to kind of create this puzzle, I guess, for me. You just say, hey, you know what? If I need something like here, I can go talk to this person or talk to that person, It's like my little Rolodex.
Yeah, man. So I guess my follow-up for that is kind of, where does that come from? I mean, you said it's your mom's personality and your dad's timing, but like, what makes you be that connector with people? And then how did you change from being the guy connecting people with no job to then start getting hired and getting those jobs?
Okay. If anybody listening to this has probably heard this before, right? It's like you go in and you interview for this job and you say, you have good work, but you don't have enough experience, right?
Yep.
So, but I'm 2 years out of school. I'm supposed to do this type of work. That's how I get the experience so that I can continue to work for you guys. But if no one gives me the experience, how am I, So for me...
It's a vicious cycle.
It really is. So for me, the idea was I was treated that way. And as is anybody coming up in the industry, you're going to get that to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. I mean, I applied at one agency, which will not be named, but I applied to one agency 10 times. 10 times. I got one interview. But, I still know these folks to this day. But it's like, you kind of felt a little blown off. My deal was I wanted to give everybody a chance. Mm-hmm. If somebody came to me, even, it's like, I believe in what I'm doing, right? Okay, so here's an example. And I'm sorry, I go off on rabbit trails. I'm sorry, Luke. I'm going to get back to the second part of your question. So I had this guy. I do these little Instagram lives like every Thursday around like 4:00 or whatnot. Yeah. Now I got to do it at 4:00 every Thursday. But I do these things. I said I do the 3 C's. I said I take compliments, concerns, and questions. I'll let y'all figure that one out. And this guy got on there and he said, I just put up this. Patrick's shaking his head. So he just.
They're slow, but I'm with you right
2
now,
out of
Scott.
6.
I'm with you.
Patrick's 2 out of 6. Somebody write it down. Okay. So anyway, so he said, can you take a look at something that I just designed? Can you kind of give it a little critique on, live? And I'm sure, I'd love to. I'm a very objective critiquer. I'm not bringing my personal feelings into this. I am just looking at this, as objectively as possible. Because in the end, the idea is, does it do the job it's supposed to do? Yes or no? Mm-hmm. There you go. It's not the style that I would use. That's not what they're asking. They're asking, how does this read? How do you interpret this? So I got up there and I start to look at this thing, and then this girl popped up on the screen. She said, "It's a mess. Throw it all out." No clue who this girl is, right? And I stopped it right there. I said, I'm going to stop everything right now. I said, there'll be none of that. None. I said, we can have a good conversation about this. We can do that type of thing. But in the end, this guy saw something in the world that he wasn't a fan of, and he made something in response. That takes guts.
Sure.
I mean, and granted, it takes guts to post something to Instagram. I mean, you know what I mean. But for him to take something, to put himself out there and say, this is my response to what I see, and I think this needs to change. This is what should happen. That takes guts, So why are we just bashing on this kid? So in the end, it was like, it was kind of the same thing for me. It was, I want to give people a fair shake. I want to give you the opportunity to kind of, I don't want to say necessarily earn your respect, but I had to work for what I got, as did all of y'all. So I want to give them an opportunity to say, look, show me what you got. Show me what you can do, because I want to know, And then as far as how that gets back into, me getting the work, people start to wonder, who is this guy coming from? Well, if he knows these people, there must be a reason. All right. So then we meet up, and then they start asking questions, and we start talking, and they realize, I'm more than just somebody who knows people. I'm okay at graphic design from time to time myself, So, but then putting yourself out there saying like, yeah, if you need this, if I can't do it, I'll help you find somebody who can, but if it is something that I can do, you should absolutely work with me.
Sure.
Totally. So here's, last time we hung out, and this has been a few weeks back, but we got into a kind of deep conversation, and I want to say it's a bit of a dark conversation, but it was about a trying time for you and kind of your progression, and so if you wouldn't mind, if you could just kind of relay that story, kind of the point you were in your life, and in kind of what you had to go through in order to continue doing your art.
Okay. Hold on. Let me lay back on the couch again for a second. I had to step up and get a drink. Okay. So, so I'm going to give you guys a little bit of, this started back at about 2008, and we're at 2017. So if you thought my answer before was long, this one's going to be a doozy. I'm just kidding. So 2008, I was an intern at a place called the Jones Group, which became Brand Fever, which became Sold. Another long story I won't get into. But I was an intern there, and I was doing really well. They were going to keep me on, and then 2008 hit, and it wasn't good. They lost their number 2 client, and then I thought they were going to keep me on. It didn't happen. But the thing that sucked about that is I was getting married in a month.
Yeah.
So that threw a bit of a spanner in the works. So from then I went on to, like I said, my dad was a machinist. I ended up working for him. I ended up working at another machine shop in town, doing the worst, just the nastiest, honestly, kind of the most dangerous job there in the shop. And I did that for 4 months, man. And we're in a tin building. It's in the middle of summer. It is boiling hot. And they let everybody, they let everybody smoke like indoors. So the whole place was just like, I have nothing against that, but like, when you're around like all this machinery, and then it's just that constant, there's already a smell and kind of a, bit. I come home, I couldn't breathe, my clothes stunk. I mean, I had cuts and bruises and scrapes all over me, which is just a normal everyday job for most folks. And I get that, because that's how I grew up. But it sucked. And I hated it, and for 2 years, it was a back and forth, to the point I was working in an Apple store that wasn't even a real Apple store. It was called Peach. It's called Peach Mac, third-party retailer there, but that's where the knowing people kind of came in, or the ability to really talk to folks. So it took me a little over 2 years before I even got my first design job. At that point, I had actually turned down an internship at a branding agency during that time because they weren't going to pay me. I couldn't do that. I mean, that was one of the hardest decisions I ever had to make. But at that time, it was, I'd love to do this, but I got to find some way to support my family. So here I am at PeachMac. I sell a computer to the right guy who turns out to be the owner of this trucking company called Global Parts Incorporated, up off of Truckers Row in just off of Moreland Avenue in Atlanta. And I sometimes would use design in my little pitch or something, and he said, well, do you do freelance work? Oh, yeah, I do freelance work, whenever I can, you know. Very, very good at it, you know. And of course, how good can I be if I'm working at PeachMac, right? So, you know, but there's that oversell. So he invites me up, has me come in. It was like I had to take like a half day or something. So I drive up there. I get in the guy's office. We chit-chat for a few minutes. And then he says, well, actually, I don't have any the freelance work for you. And I'm like, well, why did you have me drive all the way up here? He said, no. He said, no. He said, no, you don't understand. He said, I want to hire you full-time to be my director of in-house design. I would run the design department, which would consist of me. I got to give myself a title. That was kind of cool. And I did that for 2 years. And then I went home that night after finding out I was going to have this job. I quadrupled my salary. I quadrupled what I was making in the space of about 5 minutes, right? Nice. I go home that night, and my wife comes running upstairs, and, you know, Sean's on the way. Found out that same day that we were going to have a Sean. It was an amazing day. It was a crazy day. I couldn't talk for about 12 hours after that, but it was a crazy day.
Sure.
Then I get laid off from there after 2 years. I went from there to a Minuteman press. That was horrendous. That was no fun at all. And then I'm doing my freelance. I'm doing all this stuff. And right before I got the Minuteman press job, it was bad. I was trying to find work. I couldn't find it. I couldn't get in it. I mean, I was applying at Target, Kroger. I couldn't get in any of those places. Y'all have to understand, this is 5 years ago. This is not me as a teenager. This is me 4 years out of college, you know, going through all this stuff. And then we come home one night, and there's an eviction notice on the door. That'll kick you in the balls.
Yeah, man.
For sure. So, you know, so we got to be out of there. And, like, we got, like, 2 days. We got to get out of there and move in with my parents. We got a little boy, and, you know, I'm going back home, you know. And it's just, I look at what I have now, and it may not be, I can guarantee it's not as much as most folks think I'm making. Not anywhere close. But, you know, we have what we need, and we're doing well, and we're moving up, you know. I'm able to do more work. I'm able to talk to not even bigger clients, just the right people. I'm able to turn down work now if I want to. I wasn't able to do that a couple of years ago, you know, and I want to take every job if I can. But the biggest thing that I learned through that, you know, all of that going through that, I still had to put in the time. I still had to put in the work, you know. I had a kid in the studio last week, and he's going through the same thing. Not quite the eviction thing, thank goodness. Yeah. But he was going through the same thing. I'm like, look, you know, do what you need to do during the day. I said, but you got to put in the work. You know, no matter what you're going through, you have to put in the work. And it sounds horrible, you know, but it's the truth. You still have to put it in no matter what you're going through. If you want to get to a certain point, you have to put in the work.
So so, you know, it's a bit of a bizarre thing. We have, I think, 250 people in the Slack community, and then we have other people listening to the show. Not to mention that all of us are connected to creatives outside of that. Mm-hmm. And it seems like, an every week or twice a week or something thing that you hear that either someone lost their job, they were laid off, or something shifted. So it feels like it's a bit of a trying time for a lot of people. So even looking back to your situation, how do you sit there? I mean, you have a wife, you have a kid, you have an eviction notice. How do you keep pursuing art? Like what's the thing that allows you to say, like, hey, this is awful, but I need to keep going towards this thing that I'm passionate about? Like, how do you make that decision?
I'm still making that decision, honestly. I mean, I knew this is what I was supposed to do. I knew this was it. I don't know. I mean, you love doing something and you want to continue to do it, and you're good at it, or at least you think you are. And when it's good, it's good. Like I think I've been laid off from 4 jobs, as recently as, 2.5 years ago when I went out full time, run the studio. I wasn't ready to jump out, but I did. But I had a wife who has supported me and loved me and given me this incredible opportunity to do this. She's been through some stuff too. I mean, crazy stuff. Our whole family has. But there was something there. I mean, there was never any doubt about this was what I was supposed to do. And what was that? What was it says in the Bible? The Lord said, "I'll never leave us. Never leave us nor forsake us." Or what is it? It's like, never have I seen the righteous forsaken nor a seed begging bread. I mean, there's something to that. This is not something I can do on my own, and I'm thankful to the Lord that He's given me this opportunity. But just knowing in your heart of hearts, this is what I'm supposed to do. Sure. And having that support, whether it's the people that I knew all this time, having coffee with folks from time to time, because you need that. But having a wife and a kid, you come home and it's like, yeah, I can have the worst day in the world at work, but come home to this, I'm okay with that.
So let's talk. So you mentioned like a couple of the things that helped kind of bring you focus and bring you perspective and all that stuff, and it helps kind of hone you and keep you grounded. But you got to work with earlier this year. You got to work with one of my favorite companies that there is to work with, and you got to work with the Cupcake himself, Johnny Cupcakes, for a couple of pieces. And just talk to us briefly about what those pieces were, and then how that conversation started, how you got connected with him and got to do work that is, I mean, Johnny Cupcakes is a very, very sought after, very connected property. So how did that happen?
So Johnny had been following my work for about a year and a half or so. They actually used one of my typefaces in their Halloween announcement back in like 2016, I think.
Cool.
2016. Yeah, I was freaking out, and then we started talking, and then just kind of back and forth and everything. And it's him running that Instagram account. He doesn't have anybody doing it for him. That's him, which was pretty cool. So, I reached out to him, I love this, love that, thank you, and I just kept up with him. And the designers he had from Corey and then Dale, those 2 guys are phenomenal, great folks. And I'd talk with them and text with them and everything. I was a big fan of their stuff, so they kind of knew I was around. Kind of like a little gnat that buzzes around your head. It's like, little small, not little, kind of that deal. It's like, that was me, So I get an email or I get a message from Johnny saying, hey, just out of curiosity, what are your rates for, t-shirt design? And I mentioned that, and I didn't hear anything for a couple weeks, and I was like, well, at least he knows, And then Tuesday night, 9:00, the night before I left for Creative South, So I'm gonna get a Creative South, Wednesday right after lunch or something.
That's this year.
Yeah, that's this year. He messaged me and said, I got 2 shirts, and I need them done before lunch on Thursday. Can you do it? And I said, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I get in. So the next morning, I'm supposed to pick, before all the weather and stuff was insane this year, so that threw a lot of my plans out. But I was originally supposed to pick up Dusty and Zach from the airport. So I got into the studio that morning at 7 in the morning. 7 a.m. I'm in the studio. I'm packed for Creative South, and I'm what is it? And oh man, I jumped on my little Instagram live. I'm like, nobody's gonna be up this late, or this early or whatnot. Well, he was, and I mentioned on there, it's like I'm working on some cool stuff. I can't talk about it, but and then I'm getting ready to head to Creative South and do all this stuff. So I get off of there, and then I get a message from Johnny. He's like, "Are you gonna be okay?" He's like, "I didn't know you were headed to a conference," and I'm like, "Absolutely." Now in the back of my mind, I'm like, I gotta see these guys at the VIP dinner tonight. I want to hang out with y'all. I was already gonna miss the last day, and I want to see all you folks. But in my mind, it's like you don't get an opportunity like this very often.
Yeah.
So you drop what you have to drop. You do what you have to do.
Yep.
So of course I said absolutely no problem. And by Thursday at lunch, he had his stuff.
Yeah, dude.
And you were sleep deprived and coffee strung out, and it was a beautiful thing for all parties.
I actually
involved.
had no coffee at all.
Oh, it was just straight heroin? Oh, okay, cool. All right.
Mountain Dew straight into the veins.
Put in the work that you need to put in, and that's, I feel like you and I probably had a pretty similar. I don't know if it's an upbringing or like the father figure or whatever, but it's just this idea of, there's no excuse if you're not putting in the work. And so you just have to be there. You have to do it. What needs to get done needs to get done. So I totally resonate with that, and I think that's great. I mean, there's certainly ways that we can try and game the system, and we can try to jump ahead and all those things. But at the end of the day, the guy putting in the work is going to get the job, and is going to get, that's going to beget more work. So,
and that's kind of my mantra, and it's been that way ever since I started. It said, you might have more talent than me, you might have more opportunities than me, but you'll never outwork me. Ever.
Totally.
That's in my bit from day one. When I did the little rise and grind, design last year. That was it. It was like, look, this is idea of hustle and whatnot, which I think has just been this. It's as overused as handcrafted. If I'm to be completely honest.
Sure. Artisan.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so rabbit trail. When I saw handcrafted firewood, I thought that was the epitome, and, we were just going to go all downhill from there. I saw handcrafted, a sign up here in Ackworth, a sign for a handcrafted car wash.
Well, yeah.
It's a hand wash. You just mean washing a car.
I know. It's just like, what is this stuff? So, but that's how I kind of feel about when I hear hustle. It's like, I could run all over the place, one side of the room to the other and whatnot and not get a darn thing done. But if I just show up in the morning, I've got my list, I know what needs to get done, and I just pound away at it until I have to stop. And that's the nice thing about doing the work for myself is I get to choose that,
Totally.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, I totally resonate with that. So we're going to transition to final questions. We're each going to ask you one more. I'm going to go and kick it off. It's crazy how quick this goes because I have a whole list that I want to keep asking, but.
Ask me a couple more. I promise
I'm
keep.
going to ask you literally one more right now, but I'll just have to save the other for next time. So it's totally positive.
Just literally, aren't you going to see him in like 4 days? Just ask him those questions when you see him. Ask him in the Slack channel so that you can.
Yeah.
It'll be like 10 days from when this. But yes. Okay. So type hike. So let me tell you this real quick. I have no idea what type hike is. Additionally, I saw your piece and I thought it was a steak, and I got really excited, and then it wasn't a steak; it was a prairie dog. not that they're not delicious. I'm not sure.
Prairie dogs?
But tell me,
They're gamey.
I've never had a prairie dog.
but tell me, what is Typehike and what is the piece you did for them?
Oh man! So Typehike is basically they say it's a typographic exploration of America's natural wonders, and basically they've done stuff for the national parks. They've done things for kind of the shores, and now they're doing these for the for endangered wildlife. So what they'll do is they'll get however many artists, illustrators, designers, typographers, or whatnot, to do something that's like a mix of illustration and typography. They'll make a poster for each one of those things, and then they'll sell a poster, postcards. Some of them may be on T-shirts, and then they'll have gallery exhibitions all over the U.S. With this stuff. They do 2 of these a year, and and then the proceeds will go to like mine will obviously head over to Utah, for the prairie dog, and it's it's a really cool thing, and Jim and David, those guys are phenomenal to work for. They literally just say, here's your parameters, here is your subject, go.
Sure.
And they're incredible folks. So if you check it out, it's typehike.com /alphabeast if you want to check that stuff out. Look for the letter U for me. I did the little prairie dog. It was kind of cool. And what's kind of cool about that is I actually put myself out there. I contacted them earlier this year and said, I love the stuff. I'd love to do some stuff with you guys. And they're like, yeah, well, we'll put you on the list. Well, that was, 3 months ago. So I actually reached out to them again a couple weeks back and said, hey, I'd love to jump in sometime. They said, well, we actually have you ready, so I'll be one of the artists for their first one for 2018. That was already done. I didn't know that. But then he was like, oh, that's cool. And, we got you taken care of. 10 minutes later, he messages me back. He said, hey, one of our illustrators had to drop out. How do you feel about jumping in? Sure. I just said I'd do it. He's like, okay, you've got 5 days. Most of these folks have been working on that.
That's more than I had for Johnny, so I may as well.
Exactly. It's like you're giving me almost triple the time that I had for the other one. Yeah, I'm in. So you got to be ready. You got to be able to put yourself out there like that. But then you got to be able to deliver.
So let me. Okay, I should. I know I already had my question, but I have another one.
Go ahead. Follow up. We'll call it a follow up.
Yeah, this is a follow up. So it's very easy to kind of take the stance of, well, I need to be respected, and I need at least 3 weeks, and how dare you ask me to turn that around in 2 days? It's very easy to get very personal when it comes to like your, what should be demanded of your time. Mm-hmm. How do you have a good attitude through that? How do you get a call from Johnny, get excited about it, and manage to push out the thoughts of like, well, that timeline is kind of disrespectful. How do you balance that? Because I don't look, because what we get to do is a privilege. This is a privilege. I was working in a machine shop. I was cutting metal and, cutting my, getting all cut up and whatnot. I'm sitting on LinkedIn for 3 hours looking for a job. I hated this type of stuff. You do what you have to do. So when somebody comes to me with a project this fun and something that I actually asked for, think of an opportunity that you guys have wanted for so long, but it comes with this big, stipulation of you have to do it by this time. You can only use the Typehike thing. I can only use 3 colors. But wait a second. I had this awesome 20 color idea with all this stuff, but this is what you have to deal with. So in the end, I'm not looking at this like, you are coming to me, you client, me designer, pound on chest, Yeah. It's not this thing. It's a collaborative thing. Now I can choose. If somebody comes to me and say, can you do this in a couple days? If I know these folks sometimes, or if I'm able to do it, I'll say yeah. And sometimes I might have to charge a little bit more because, my time is definitely valuable. But,
if somebody says, hey, this thing is launching in 3 days, well, I need 3 weeks. Well, you don't have 3 weeks, we have to launch this in a couple of days, and we're asking for you to help us out. They came to me saying, we need your help. And I'm like, I'm more than happy to do it.
Yeah.
So
here's what I want to ask on the heels of that as my final question. You have, on multiple occasions in this episode, you have said the people that you've surrounded yourself with, I'll use the word community. I don't know that you necessarily use the word community, but the connections that you've made. How important is it from your perspective, how important is it for you to have things like the Slack channel that we're all a part of, or being involved in like a local like AIGA chapter, or finding local hangouts like what you do with Patrick, and when you guys get together, it's not just the two of you going on a date, but like several of you getting together and not saying that doesn't happen. I'm saying it's not just that.
Fine with it.
But how important is that? And if you could sum it up into like a tweet-sized piece of advice. No.
You don't
Here's what
know
I'm
him.
saying.
wow, okay.
No. Listen
Not
to why
too
I'm
many
saying,
words, Fuller.
Yeah, but like
140.
if you could sum it up as if you were if you only had just a brief moment, like the elevator pitch or something, to give to somebody who is either just starting out or who is going through some of the tough times that you've been through, or whatever, that would encourage people to get into these things.
Why suffer alone? Bring others into it. No, it's I grew up in a small town, so I enjoy being part of a community. I like walking into a place and knowing somebody. They know my order. They know who I am. They know my parents, my sister, whatnot. But there really is strength in numbers. So, and everybody gets to kind of pick, who those numbers are, which is kind of cool. Yeah, I mean, you surround yourself with good people. You surround yourself with folks that aren't going to sugarcoat it for you. They see you doing something or see you slacking off or something like that. They'll call you on it. I enjoy that. I need that. I'm as stubborn as a mule, but man, I still need that, that big kick in the pants. I really do.
Yeah,
and
dude.
These folks will do that.
All right, I'm going to round it out with my final. So you've posted, and we've mentioned it here briefly on the podcast, table tennis. You,
Yes.
sir, I think you've underplayed it. You're a baller. Like, you're good. Like, good. Why? Where does that come from? Like, why table tennis? Like, where does your love for it? And, like, yeah, it's just such a random thing.
He didn't have any work for a while, so he just played table tennis.
No, seriously, like, I mean, you're like Olympic good almost. Like, where does that come from?
So any sport that I played, whether it was I played baseball, I played basketball in high school and college, and anything that I started in, I wanted to be good at. I wanted to develop as much as I could. I started playing table tennis in high school, just kind of messing around a little bit. Got to college, found out that, heck, there's more to this thing. I found a club in town, and I played there twice a week. I went back home, and I found a table tennis club in Atlanta, and one of the coaches saw me play and brought me in, took me in, started training me, and next thing you know, I was at the Junior Olympics. Ended up with 2 silver medals. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, man.
Got my first taste of Des Moines, Iowa, which is very flat and very green and very spacious in that everything is way too far apart, but very peaceful place. But we had a good time up there, and then I just kept going. I got a taste of it, and I wanted to get better. At my peak, I was playing 6 days a week, and I had 2 coaches that I was training with 4 of those 6 days.
I feel lied to. I just want you to know this because I knew you played table tennis, and I'm fine with the fact that you're good at table tennis. I didn't know that I'm playing against a freaking junior world champion table tennis player. That's
Junior
ridiculous.
AAU Junior Olympics, completely different.
No, it's the same thing to me. I feel like you took advantage of me.
I get to play a couple of times a week.
Listen, how much money I lost to you,
if you had gotten first place in like an all girls blind college, it would still be the same to Patrick. You have won some kind of what's the word I'm looking for? That people have recognized. Recognition, yeah, award.
Medal?
Recognition was the word I was looking for, but thanks for trying to help out, guys. Therefore, Patrick, you have stacked the deck, and Patrick feels swindled.
This is the last time we ever play ping pong together. I just want you to know that. That's never happened
At least you can say this about me. I never asked to put down any money on the game.
It's true.
You never
I
asked. You
demanded
never turned it down either.
Yeah, exactly. I implied
this
it.
is also true.
I ushered gingerly with eyebrow raising, but
here's what I remember: Scott, like he has his own like paddle.
Yeah.
And he like unzips the case and he pulls it out. And I remember someone said, like, basically, Scott, how much does that cost? And he's like, it was expensive. And that was like the end of the conversation.
That just seems like honesty to me.
Yeah.
But not like, oh yeah, this thing was expensive. It's just like it.
Yeah, it's expensive.
I had to work for this one.
Listen, if I'm paying more than $30 for a ping pong paddle, that is expensive. I think
expensive.
Yeah,
it's that level.
Yeah, that's whisper expensive. All right, so let me just do this. Let me just take us. Tell people where they can find your work. Tell people where they can connect to what you're doing, follow you, and support what you're doing.
All right. I'm online. It's thestudiotemporary.com. It'll go to my Dribble page. I have a new website in the works. I think y'all like it. I hope you will. If I can ever get around to finishing the darn thing. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Studio Temporary, and also check out my newly renovated and updated Big Cartel shop, thestudiotemporary.bigcartel.com. I've got t-shirts, I've got some prints, I've got some enamel pins, some stickers, some other stuff. Oh, and new patches that just came in. My buddy Josh Wheeler out of Charleston, South Carolina, did an incredible job. Thank you so much for that. Go check that guy out. And if you are local, if you're going to be in the Atlanta, Woodstock area-ish on September the 19th, around 6:30, Patrick will be there.
That's right.
And Luke and Andrew are questionable for the moment.
No, it's definitely. I know the answer. It's definitely not going to happen.
I am 100% undecided.
But they're also questionable every moment.
Yeah,
so.
I question it. Yeah.
So if you're in town September the 19th, and you can get in touch with me if you want some more information. But I'll be giving a talk at there in Woodstock, a Reformation Brewery for small town creatives. My buddy Tom Cox put that on, and they decided to throw away all the good stuff that they've had go for them this year and let me talk. So I'm quite excited about that. I think it's going to be fun. We'll see. It'll be great. I'll be enjoying that. And then, that's pretty much it. And then if you want to reach out to me, shoot me a direct message on Instagram at Studio Temporary, please. I get messages from there constantly, and I enjoy that. It's probably one of the best ways to get in touch with me.
Okay.
In
the Slack channel. Join the Slack channel, and you can ask him all the questions that we failed to ask in this interview, and and you can definitely connect with him there. Well, before we head out of this episode, will you help us pick our coveted categories for next week?
Oh boy.
I'm gonna just say yes at this point, and then we'll. Okay, sweet. Okay.
It's like a high amount of consideration.
Yes, Andrew, I will.
Good. Then what we'll do is we're going to switch to that portion of it, but that's all for the interview. Up next, we're going to draw some tokens. Every week we draw tokens to figure out exactly what we're going to be talking about the next week. And so I've got these tokens in my hand. Scott, either 1, 2, 3, count them. They're there. They're real. I'm going to shuffle them up. And you are going to give me a number between 1 and 3, and that will be picking for Patrick. They are face down, and I'm laying them in front of me. Go ahead.
Number 3.
Number 3, Patrick, you have toys and games, my friend. Okay. Then you're going to get between 1 and 2, or 1 or 2, and you'll be picking for Luke.
Luke's number 1, so we'll give him number 1.
Number 1?
Mm-hmm.
Art and design. You did it. You did it. You did it. That means I have toys and games. No, that means I have TV and film. I apologize. That means I have TV and film. Congratulations, Scott. You gave Luke exactly what he wanted, and it's honestly what I wanted for him.
We're doing great, guys. We're doing great.
Beautiful situation. Well, thanks for coming on and chatting with us. We will see you quickly on the Slack channel as always. And if you want to join us on the Slack channel, go to mf1podcast.com/Slack to join the conversation. Go subscribe now to our YouTube channel and to iTunes if you haven't already. YouTube is going to be full steam ahead starting September 14th. We've got some fun stuff. Yesterday, we rolled out an unboxing video. The week before that, we rolled out our first unboxing video. There's going to be more and more original content that is going to be exclusive to YouTube. So you're going to want to jump on that now so you don't miss out. What else is there? All of the social media, just search MF1 Podcast, join the conversation on there. Mm-hmm. Like I said about Slack, if you want to support the show, go onto iTunes and rate and review. That helps us out so much. It doesn't cost you anything. And if you want to pitch in a couple extra bucks, go to patreon.com/MF1 Podcast. Become a blooper at $5 a month. Don't become a blooper. Become a blooper level patron.
If you want to call yourself a blooper, you can. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, you can do that.
We won't call you that.
But that gets you
going on the gag reel.
An additional episode every month that is only for you. That is just bloopers and ridiculousness. Believe it or not, there is stuff that doesn't make the show.
Yeah, that's true.
And it also gets you access to our special Slack channel inside of our community, as well as early access to information. It's a great, great time, and it helps us out so much. I think for now we're going to get out of here. I'm Andrew.
I'm Patrick.
I'm Luke.
I'm hungry.
Peace out.
Bye.
Hold on to your butts.